Hello everyone, I am Mr. Night Truth. I know many of you enjoy listening to these videos as you fall asleep. So before you drift off, I'd love for you to leave a comment letting me know where in the world you're tuning in from. And if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Alright, now let's get comfortable, relax, and let's go down into the story.
Story number 1. I didn't mean to kill her. I swear I didn't. She looked exactly like me. Same hair, same scar, same voice. But when I looked into that mirror at 2:22 a.m., she smiled first. I didn't even believe in that stupid rule until the night I broke it. That's how I start the recording, staring straight into the camera, my face pale under the weak desk lamp. You can almost hear the rain outside. The kind that doesn't stop, the kind that fills in silences you're afraid to leave empty. I tell myself this is just a story, that I'm only filming this to warn people. But even as I say it, my reflection in the screen feels like it's waiting for something, like it knows I'm lying. Anyway, you've probably heard some version of the rule before. Never look into a mirror at 2:22 a.m. It's an old superstition, passed down like a bedtime threat. My grandmother used to whisper it when I was little. She'd grab my wrist with those paper-thin fingers and hiss, "That's the hour when your reflection wakes up without you." I used to laugh. I'd roll my eyes, tell her ghosts weren't real. She never laughed back. It's strange. I never thought about that rule again until last winter, the night everything started. I'd just gone through a breakup, 6 years together, gone overnight, and my apartment still smelled like her perfume. I couldn't sleep. You know that feeling when you're awake at some ungodly hour and the world feels too still, like it's waiting for something bad to happen? That was me. I remember checking the clock, 2:21 a.m., a minute away. The thing is, I didn't plan to test it. I just caught my own reflection in the dark bathroom mirror. My phone flashlight was off, but the glass shimmered faintly, like it had its own light. And I thought, why not? It's just a stupid myth. So I waited. At 2:22, the house made a sound I can't forget, like someone exhaling just behind my ear. The light flickered, and my reflection blinked half a second after I did. I know what you're thinking. Sleep deprivation, stress, imagination. That's what I told myself too. But the more I replay that moment, the less sure I am. I remember leaning closer, trying to catch up with my own reflection. Like a game, I moved my hand. It followed perfectly. I smiled. It smiled. Then I stopped smiling. It didn't. Just for a heartbeat, a tiny, impossible moment, it kept smiling. And then it caught up like nothing had happened. I backed away so fast I hit the sink. My heart was in my throat, but I was still laughing, saying out loud, "Wow, you really need sleep, man." That's what I told myself. That's what I told them too. When they asked about the mirror later, I keep saying I broke it by accident, but I don't know anymore. The police report says I cut my hand on the shards. I told them I tripped, that it wasn't a big deal. They didn't ask why there was blood on the wall. And maybe I would have forgotten about it. Maybe it really was stress, if not for the whisper. It came the next night. Same hour, same silence. I was lying on the couch, half asleep, when I heard something faint. A voice, maybe, coming from the bathroom. It was so soft I almost convinced myself it was pipes, or the wind. But it said my name, twice. Evan. Look, I didn't move, didn't breathe. The clock read 2:22 a.m. When I finally dared to get up, the bathroom light was already on. The mirror was whole again. Perfect. I swear to you, I shattered it the night before. I watched the pieces fall. I swept them into a trash bag myself, but there it was, smooth glass, not a crack in sight. And when I leaned closer, my reflection looked wrong. There was something about the eyes. They were too focused, like it was looking at someone just behind me. I said, "Stop it." I actually said it out loud to my own face, and then, God, I wish I was making this up. The reflection tilted its head to the side, slowly, and smiled again. Not the same smile as before. This one looked practiced. I didn't sleep after that. Haven't really slept since. You start noticing little things, tiny shifts in your own habits. You wonder if you smiled first this morning, or if your reflection did. You start checking cameras, watching your own face move, timing blinks. I thought maybe if I recorded everything, I'd prove to myself that it wasn't real. That's why I'm filming this now. I keep telling myself this video is for you, for anyone stupid enough to test the rule. But honestly, maybe I just want proof I'm still me, because last night I covered every mirror in this apartment. All of them. And yet, when I turned on my phone this morning, the front camera was already open, recording, and I swear, I wasn't smiling in that clip. It's not supposed to record on its own. Phones don't just do that. That's how I open the next video. A shaky voice, low light, the lens half fogged from my breath. I sound tired, like someone who hasn't slept in days, because I hadn't. The phone sits on the desk in front of me, and I keep glancing down at it, like it might come alive again. I tell the viewers, you, that I reviewed the clip frame by frame, and that's when I saw it. In the first second, I'm asleep on the couch, face turned toward the camera. The light from the street lamp outside cuts across the room in thin bands. Then, around the 2:22 a.m. mark, my phone shakes slightly as if someone nudged it. The front camera focuses and there's movement. Not mine. A blink. Too fast to be human. Like something inside the lens just adjusted its view. And then I see her. She's sitting where I am now. Same sweatshirt, same messy hair, but her head's tilted slightly, and her eyes are locked directly on the screen. Not on me. She's watching you. I tell myself it's a glitch, a reflection, some kind of mirror loop effect. I keep saying that, but even when I pause the video, even when I shut it off, I can still see her face burned into the inside of my eyelids. That morning, I tried to act normal. I went to work, smiled when people talked to me, laughed at things I didn't hear. But every reflective surface, windows, metal counters, even my coffee, caught my attention. Everywhere I looked, she was almost there. Not full reflections, just flickers, a movement half a second behind. By the time I got home, I couldn't take it anymore. I ripped the sheet off the bathroom mirror and stared into it. "Show me," I whispered. "If you're real, just show me." Nothing, just my tired face. The faint hum of the fridge in the other room. My breath fogging the glass. I exhaled, shaky, and looked down. For a moment I felt stupid, and then something small, almost invisible, shifted. The light behind me flickered, and I saw it. Her blink didn't match mine. It happened first. She blinked first. I stumbled back, knocking over the toothbrush cup. I remember the clatter echoing like a gunshot. My reflection stayed perfectly still. That shouldn't be possible, right? When you move, it moves. That's how mirrors work. But I stood there frozen, waiting for it to move. And it didn't. Then, slowly, her mouth opened. And even though I swear there was no sound, I heard it inside my head. "You're late." I don't remember what happened next exactly. My memory blanks out, like someone spliced a few seconds from the film of my life. When I came to, the lights were off, and I was sitting on the bathroom floor with glass dust all over my hands. The mirror wasn't broken this time, just cracked down the middle like a vein. That night I called my ex. I don't even know why. Maybe I wanted to hear a real voice again. She didn't answer, but her voicemail came on, the same message as always. Hearing her voice felt wrong now, like I was listening to someone I used to be. After that, I turned every light on in the apartment and sat awake until morning. When the sun came up, everything looked normal again. The crack in the mirror was gone, perfectly smooth. I started recording myself constantly just to feel safe. I told the audience I was doing an experiment, but it wasn't that. I just needed proof that I wasn't losing it. But the camera started catching strange things. Tiny shifts in my posture when I wasn't moving. Shadows flickering in corners that didn't exist. In one clip, my reflection's lips moved when mine didn't. It said something short, 2 syllables, but I couldn't read them. I looped it for hours. I think it said, "Come back." The next few days blurred together. I kept trying to tell myself it was just stress, or maybe grief. I started to believe it, until the messages began. They came from an unknown number, late at night. Just images, photos of my own apartment, but taken from inside the bathroom. The first one showed the sink, the second, my bedroom door, the third, me asleep. And in every photo, my reflection was visible somewhere. In the doorknob, in the screen, in a piece of glass, always smiling. I deleted the messages, but they kept coming back, even when my phone was off. I tried covering every mirror again, every single one. I taped black plastic over the windows, but I could still feel her, the way you feel static before lightning hits. I don't think she's trapped in the mirror anymore. I think the glass was just a doorway. When I looked in the bathroom last night, my reflection wasn't there. Just an empty room. I should have been terrified, but I wasn't. For the first time I felt calm, relieved even, because if she wasn't in there anymore, then maybe she's out here. This morning, I woke up to find the mirror uncovered again. The plastic was torn neatly, not ripped. Peeled back, like someone had done it carefully, and written on the glass, in faint letters that looked like fogged breath, were the words, "You blinked." I don't remember writing it. I don't think I did, but when I raised my hand to wipe it away, my reflection didn't follow. She just smiled, soft, patient, like she'd been waiting for me to finally notice. She's here with me right now. You can't see her, but she's here. That's the first thing I say in the new recording. The light in my apartment has changed. It's colder, bluish, like dawn refusing to arrive. My voice sounds softer, almost gentle, like I'm explaining something I've already accepted. I look over my shoulder every few seconds, not because I'm scared, but because I'm making sure she's listening. I tell you, the audience, that I haven't slept in 3 nights. Every time I close my eyes, I feel her standing next to me, breathing in sync with mine. Sometimes when I wake up, my lips are sore, like someone's been smiling for me in my sleep. I keep saying her name, though I never told you what it is before. It's Ava, same as mine. I say it fits, doesn't it? Like we were meant to be the same person. Maybe we always were. It started 2 nights after the message on the mirror. You blinked. I was recording another video, trying to prove that nothing supernatural was happening. I set up my phone across from the couch, turned off the lights, and hit record. When I watched the footage later, I saw her sitting right beside me. Same clothes, same posture, same scar above the eyebrow. Only one difference. Her eyes were open the entire time. I never saw her blink. Not once. I know how crazy it sounds. I know. But the line between real and reflection is so thin now it doesn't matter anymore. I started talking to her. At first I whispered stupid nervous questions like, "Why are you here?" or "What do you want?" She didn't answer with words, but things around the room would shift. My phone would slide a few inches closer. the mirror would tilt slightly on its hook. The light bulb would flicker twice, like a blink, and I realized that was her way of talking, through echoes. The next morning, I found a note under my door, just a piece of paper folded neatly in half. In faint pencil it read, "Stop filming me, no signature." No handwriting I recognized. I laughed at first. Maybe a prank from a neighbor. Maybe I was finally cracking. But when I looked up at the camera feed, the lens was fogged, like someone had breathed against it. And there, faintly written in condensation, were the same words, "Stop filming me." I told myself I'd stop. I even packed up the camera that night. But around 2 a.m. the walls started to click. Not creak, click, rhythmic, intentional, like someone was snapping their fingers behind the drywall. I couldn't take it. I turned the camera back on. That's when I saw her again, standing in the hallway behind me, not moving. Just there, I froze. The air felt heavy, like the oxygen was being pulled toward her. I whispered, "Ava." Her head tilted slightly. That same patient smile spread across her face. And then, in a voice that didn't sound like mine, didn't sound like anyone human, she whispered back, "You called me first." I remember the exact chill that rolled through me when she said that. Because she was right. I had called her. In that first night when I challenged the mirror, I asked her to show me. Now she was showing me everything. After that, I stopped recording videos. The line between her and me was blurring too fast. I'd catch myself saying things I didn't remember later. Sometimes my hands would move on their own, tracing shapes on fogged glass or the wall. She wanted me to see something beyond the mirror. The next time I looked, it wasn't just her reflection anymore. The space behind the glass looked deeper, darker, like a tunnel, and in it were more of them. Dozens, maybe hundreds, faces pressed against the other side, whispering the same phrase over and over. "You blinked first." I smashed that mirror again, but I don't think it mattered. When I turned around, the cracks in the glass were still there, in the air, like the world itself was breaking. I see her more clearly now, even in daylight. She walks where I walk, pauses when I pause. Sometimes when I'm talking, I'll hear an echo that finishes my sentence differently. It's like we're taking turns being real. Yesterday, I went outside for the first time in weeks. I thought maybe if I got away from the mirrors, from the house, I could escape her. But every car window, every shop display, every puddle, she was there. Sometimes smiling, sometimes just watching. Once, in the reflection of a bus window, I saw her turn her head when I didn't. She looked straight at me and mouthed, "You can't leave without me." I ran home after that. I don't even remember the route. Tonight, I decided to film again. You can see me shaking, but I'm calmer than I've been in days, because I finally understand what she wants. She doesn't want to hurt me. She wants in. She's been waiting for me to give her permission, to stop resisting. And honestly, I'm tired of fighting. So if you're watching this, if you ever wake up at 2:22 a.m., don't look in the mirror. Don't call her name. Don't try to prove she's not real. Because once she knows you're watching, she starts watching back. And once she blinks first, you stop existing second. If this is the last thing you ever hear from me, just remember I didn't let her in. She took me. The video opens in near darkness. The frame jitters slightly, like the phone is being held by trembling hands. A single lamp flickers in the corner, making the shadows ripple across the room like liquid. My voice sounds lower now, strained, half whisper, half breath. The kind of voice people use when they're not sure who else might be listening. I start by saying it's been 3 days since the last recording. 3 nights without sleep. The apartment smells like wet dust and metal. Every reflective surface is gone. The mirrors, the TV screen. Even my phone display is cracked so I can't see myself. But somehow, She's still finding her way through. I tell you, I hear her at night now. Not from the mirror, but from inside the walls. Fingertips dragging softly along the plaster, like she's tracing the shape of the room. Sometimes she hums. Sometimes she whispers my name in that almost affectionate way, stretching it out like a lullaby. Last night, I woke up to find condensation on the wall above my bed, like someone breathing through it from the other side. I wiped it away, and underneath, faintly scratched into the paint, were the words, "Let me finish the smile." I thought destroying the mirrors would end it. That was the plan. The glass was the doorway. I was sure of it. So I took a hammer to every piece of reflective surface left in this apartment. The sound of shattering glass was almost relieving at first. Every crash felt like a small victory. Until I realized the pieces didn't fall right. They didn't scatter. They shifted, sliding toward each other on the floor, aligning like magnets. I could hear them hum, and when I looked down, all those broken pieces were forming something. Not a reflection, a shape, a face, hers. I ran into the hallway, left the lights off. The power had started flickering anyway. Everything in the building felt charged, humming with low, invisible current. From behind me, I heard the faintest crunch of glass under bare feet. I froze. She was standing in the doorway. The broken glass had stitched itself together behind her, forming a tall, fractured mirror that reflected her but not me. The shards shimmered like liquid silver, pulsing faintly with every breath I took. Her eyes glowed faintly, not with light, but with movement, constant, restless blinking. I couldn't tell if it was her eyes doing that or the fragments around her. "You broke my home," she whispered. "So I made yours." I dropped the hammer. It didn't even hit the floor. It just disappeared mid-air, swallowed by the reflection between us. I remember stepping back, but there was nowhere to go. Every surface, every wall, every speck of glass dust in the air shimmered faintly like static. My whole apartment had become a living mirror. She stepped forward, but the reflection didn't match. When she moved, I didn't. When she spoke, her voice came from inside my chest, not from across the room. "You don't get to leave me again," she said. I shouted. I don't even know what. Words blur together when your own echo answers differently. I think I screamed, "You're not real!" And she laughed. Soft, pitying. "Then why am I holding you?" I felt something cold press against my wrist. When I looked down, I saw her hand wrapped around mine. Pale, translucent, but solid. The edges of her skin shimmered like frost on a window pane. The world tilted then. My vision split, like watching two movies on the same screen. In one version, I was still standing in my living room, hammer at my feet. In the other, I was inside the mirror, pounding on the glass. My own voice screamed back at me, "Let me out!" But she, the other me, smiled through the surface, calm and unbothered. "You blinked first," she mouthed. "The recording skips there. A flicker, like a corrupted file. When it resumes, I'm sitting on the floor. The mirror behind me is cracked, blood-streaked. My hands are shaking, one of them bleeding, though I don't explain how. I tell you, the viewers, that it's finally over, that she's gone. I keep repeating it, like saying it enough times might make it true. But then, mid-sentence, I stop and look off screen. My eyes widen just slightly. No, that's not static, then silence. When the video feed stabilizes again, the camera is on the ground, sideways. You can still hear faint breathing, but the voice that follows doesn't sound quite like mine anymore. It's softer, smoother, like something learning how to speak human again. "He didn't listen," it says, "but maybe you will." The figure on screen, who looks like me, walks up to the broken glass. Her movements are too fluid, too symmetrical. She reaches out, touches the mirror, and the reflection ripples like water. "It's quiet in here now," she whispers. "You can come see for yourself." Then she looks straight at the camera, straight at you. Her smile widens, slow and deliberate, until it stretches just a little too far. And faintly, beneath the static hum, you can hear the clock ticking. 2:21, 2:22. The screen flickers once more. The final frame freezes on her reflection, alone, whispering one last line. Your turn. Story number 2. You ever notice how kids' laughter sounds different when there's no one around to laugh back? I thought it was just the wind that day, until one of them called my name. Camera clicks on. Static. A deep breath. You ever notice how kids' laughter sounds different when there's no one around to laugh back? That's the first thing I said when I hit record that night. I thought it sounded clever, mysterious enough to pull viewers in. I didn't realize then that I was starting something I wouldn't be able to stop. Anyway, yeah, hi, I'm Evan. Most of you probably know me from my hiking videos. The slow, relaxing ones where I just walk through quiet places and talk about life. No jump scares, no fake ghosts. But this one's different. I wasn't planning to upload this at all, honestly. I've been, sitting on this footage for months. I told myself I deleted it. Guess I lied. He exhales. Nervous laughter. It started 3 months ago, right after the storm that tore through Ashpine Valley. The woods behind my place, you know, that stretch that connects to Old Miller Creek, it got flooded. I figured I'd film the aftermath for a new upload. Branches everywhere, mist rolling off the trees, the kind of eerie beauty people love in the comments. I left early. 6 a.m, no one else around. No cars, no sound, except for birds, wind, and my own boots crunching in the mud. And then I heard it. He leans closer to the mic. It wasn't far off, maybe 50 feet into the trees. At first I thought it was an echo, a high, breathy laugh, soft enough that I almost mistook it for a crow. But then it came again, louder, sharper, layered. It sounded like children. You know how laughter usually lifts your mood? This didn't. There was something off about it, like someone trying too hard to sound happy. And I swear to you, there was no way any kids were out there that morning. The nearest house is miles away. I remember stopping my camera and whispering, "Hello?" like an idiot. And that's when I saw them, 3 of them, standing right between the birch trees. 2 boys and a girl, all of them pale, soaked like they'd been swimming. They were wearing clothes that didn't make sense. Little suspenders, dresses, the kind of stuff you'd see in old photos from the 1950s. They weren't playing anymore. They were just looking at me. He swallows hard. I waved, tried to sound calm. "Hey, you guys okay?" They didn't move, not even a blink, just stared. The girl tilted her head like she recognized me. That's what really froze me, that familiarity. I told myself maybe their parents were camping nearby, maybe they were lost. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. It was too quiet. No tents, no fire smoke, no sound except their breathing and mine. So I turned off the camera, or at least I thought I did. When I looked again, the kids were gone, just trees and mist. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes, waiting to hear another laugh, but there was nothing. I convinced myself it was a trick of the fog, packed my gear and went home. He pauses. A faint hum from his computer fills the silence. That should have been the end of it. But that night, when I loaded the footage onto my laptop, something weird happened. You ever get that sinking feeling before you even hit play? Like your gut already knows something's wrong. I skimmed through the first half. Birds, trees, normal stuff. Then, about 9 minutes in, right before the point where I remembered turning off the camera, the laughter came back. Louder, clearer, except This time, it wasn't coming from the woods. It was coming from behind the camera. And right before the screen glitched, I heard a small voice, I swear to God, whisper, "Evan, come play." He chuckles weakly, like trying to dismiss it. I told myself it was fake. Audio feedback, corrupted data, something logical. I even posted in a video forum asking if anyone knew why old SD cards make phantom sounds. But the replies didn't help. They said laughter like that doesn't just appear in background noise. So yeah, I panicked, deleted the file. Or thought I did. Guess my hard drive had other plans. Because a few nights later, when I was editing something else, I heard that same laughter again. Only this time, it wasn't coming from the footage. It was coming from inside my house. Static crackles. The sound of distant, faint giggling filters through the mic. I didn't approach them, Evan mutters softly. I didn't go near them. But his voice trembles as he says it, like someone trying to convince himself of a lie. Camera flickers. He stares off screen for too long. When I checked the footage that night, he whispers, eyes glassy. The kids were gone, but the sound, their laughter, it was inside my house. Cut to black. Camera fades in. Evan looks pale, exhausted. His eyes dart off screen before he starts speaking. You know when you wake up and for a second you forget you're scared? That's what it was like the next morning. For about 5 seconds, I believed the night before hadn't happened. No laughter, no voices, just a bad dream. But then I noticed the camera still sitting on my desk, and the timestamp on the file I swore I deleted. 3:17 a.m., a new recording. One I didn't make. He forces a nervous laugh. I told myself maybe I left it on by accident. Maybe the mic picked up the TV, or the rain, or my own breathing. But the weird thing? The clip started with me saying, "Who's there?" I didn't remember saying that. The screen stayed dark for a while, just the faint hum of static. Then a giggle, short, high-pitched, like a child trying to hide behind their hands. And then a whisper, "Evan." It said my name like it had always known it. He rubs his face, voice trembling. That's when I shut my laptop. I didn't watch the rest. I couldn't. I spent the whole morning convincing myself it was an audio glitch. Maybe the microphone had picked up some random noise. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. At around noon, I went outside, thinking fresh air would clear my head. The woods looked normal again, calm. But as I stepped off my porch, I saw something in the mud. Small footprints, like a child had run across the yard barefoot. 3 sets, each one perfectly formed, wet, leading straight to my door. He pauses, lowering his voice. It hadn't rained since the storm 3 days earlier. I tried to laugh it off. I even recorded a few clips from my next video, pretending everything was fine. But every time I played them back, there it was again. Faint giggling, layered beneath my voice, almost like it was waiting to be noticed. That night, I barely slept. I kept hearing things. Soft knocks, something brushing against the walls, whispers that vanished when I turned on the light. At one point, I swear I heard a quiet knock under the floorboards. 3 times. He looks at the floor, expression distant. I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? A guy who spends half his time alone in the woods hearing phantom laughter. But the next day, I ran into my neighbor, old Mrs. Hollins. She lives about half a mile down the dirt road. Has that faded blue house with the rusted gate. She called out from her porch. "You've been hearing them too, haven't you?" I froze. Didn't know what she meant. She shuffled closer, eyes cloudy but sharp, like she could see through me. "Don't go near that creek," she said. "Not since the children started calling again." I laughed. Couldn't help it. Told her I didn't believe in ghost stories, but she didn't laugh back. She just said, "I used to say the same thing. Before my boy disappeared, A long pause. Evan exhales. I didn't ask questions. I didn't want to, but her words stuck with me before my boy disappeared. When I got home, I checked the footage again. I told myself I'd delete everything for real this time. But when I opened the file folder, it was empty, except for one clip I didn't recognize. No title, no timestamp, just a black thumbnail. I played it. At first it was just static, then faint breathing. Mine, I think. Followed by the sound of something dragging across the floor. And then that voice again. Closer this time. Evan, another whisper joined it. We're cold. He shuts his eyes, hands trembling. That's when my camera light flicked on by itself. The red record dot glowed. I hadn't touched it. I spun around, no one there. But the knocking came again, this time right beneath me. Knock, knock, knock. I pressed my ear to the floor. Silence. Then, laughter. It burst out so suddenly I fell back, knocking over my chair. I don't remember much after that, except the sound of my own breathing and the voice, smaller this time, almost pleading. Let us in. He grips the table, whispering fast. I didn't let them in. I didn't open the door. I didn't. You have to believe me. He looks into the camera, voice breaking between words. People think ghosts want revenge, but that's not what they want. They just want company. And maybe I gave them that somehow. I don't know how. That night, I moved my mattress into the living room. Couldn't stand sleeping near the floor anymore. I thought about what Mrs. Hollins said, about her son, about the creek. I remember thinking, maybe I should ask her what she meant. He laughs weakly, then freezes. But before I could, I heard the voices again, this time not from the woods, not from under the floor. They were outside my window. He glances over his shoulder. Silence stretches. They were whispering my name, all three of them, soft and in unison, like they were trying not to wake someone. Evan, come play. And for a split second, I swear I saw three tiny shadows move past the glass. The girl in front turned her head and smiled. His voice drops to a whisper. When I opened my eyes again, it was morning. My window was unlocked. Camera flickers. The hum of faint laughter seeps into the audio. I think they called me because they remembered me, he mutters. Because I used to play there too. He stares at the camera for a long time, eyes hollow. I didn't approach them, he repeats softly. But maybe they approached me first. Static rises. The video distorts, catching his whisper as it fades to black. Next time, I'll tell you what happened when I watched the tape. Camera flickers on. Evan looks worse than before. Red eyes, unshaven, sitting in near darkness. The only light comes from the laptop screen reflecting off his face. I told myself I wouldn't open that file again. A shaky breath. But curiosity's a kind of sickness, isn't it? The kind that convinces you knowing is safer than wondering. He looks straight into the camera, expression flat, eyes hollow. I thought if I watched the tape, I'd prove to myself that it wasn't real, that I was just tired, grieving, maybe losing it. But that's not what happened. He drags his fingers through his hair, muttering. It's never what happens. It was around 2 a.m. when he gave in. The house was silent, except for the refrigerator hum and the occasional crack from the wood stove. He plugged in the SD card, opened the folder, and there it was, the video he'd seen before. The one he was sure he'd deleted twice already. It wasn't labeled, just a black thumbnail, timestamp 000. He smirks nervously. That's the funny thing about digital files. You think you control them, but sometimes they come back, like they want to be seen. He hit play. At first, the footage was normal. The forest, grey light seeping through the trees, his own voice describing the flood damage, everything exactly as he remembered. Then the image stuttered. The frame jumped forward 5 seconds, then 10. He raises a trembling hand as if replaying it in his mind. And then I saw them again. The 3 children stood at the edge of the trees, still, silent, watching him through the camera's lens. Only this time their faces looked different, blurry, like someone had smeared them with ash. Their mouths didn't move when the laughter began. He glances off screen, voice softening. I kept waiting for the version of me in the video, to walk away, to stop filming. But I didn't. I moved closer. He insists he doesn't remember that part. He swears he didn't walk toward them that day, yet the footage shows his boots crunching through the mud. The children's shapes growing clearer as he approaches. I heard myself whisper, "It's okay, I won't hurt you." He shakes his head violently. "I never said that. I never said that." The video flickered again. For a split second, maybe less, a 4th figure appeared, taller, standing behind him. He leans forward, whispering fast. I paused it, rewound it, frame by frame. You can see it, right there, the outline of someone standing right behind me. The shape was darker than the trees, too solid to be a shadow, too motionless to be human. When the footage jumped again, the figure was gone. He tried to tell himself it was lighting, maybe a branch, but then he noticed something else. The children weren't looking at the camera anymore. They were looking past it. Evan presses his palms together, breathing fast. I know how crazy this sounds, but it's like they were watching me. The me that's sitting here right now, like they knew I'd come back. He says the audio began to distort. Low, warped laughter beneath the static, looping over and over until the pitch broke. He muted the laptop, but the sound kept going. It wasn't coming from the computer anymore. He taps the desk rhythmically, whispering to himself. It was coming from the hallway. He grabbed his flashlight, left the screen playing, and stepped out. The beam flickered across empty walls. No movement, but when he turned back toward the monitor, the children weren't in the video anymore. They were standing behind him. He closes his eyes, voice cracking. I don't mean in real life, not yet. I mean in the footage. They'd turned around. They were facing the camera, my back. He rewound it again, thinking he imagined it. But every time the frame froze, their heads were turned a little more, until their faces filled the screen. That's when the girl's mouth moved for the first time. Her lips formed a single word. Stay. He stares blankly for a few seconds, as if hearing it again. The video cut to black. Then another voice, deeper, slower, whispered through the speakers. You left her. He doesn't know who her is. He refuses to say, but the way his jaw tightens when he hears that word, the way his hands clench, makes it obvious there's something he's not telling us. A faint, broken laugh. I told myself I imagined it, closed the laptop, but when I turned around, I saw something written on the fogged window. He glances off screen. There's a long silence before he says it. Play again. He rubs his temples, muttering incoherently. I should have stopped. I know that now. But I kept hearing them. In my sleep, in the pipes, in the trees outside my window. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those faces frozen mid-laugh. He looks at the camera, expression fragile, desperate. I think they followed me home because I didn't help them. But that's not true, right? I didn't leave anyone behind. His voice cracks. He's crying, half laughing. I tried to tell myself they weren't real, that maybe they were memories or guilt or something else. But then I remembered what Mrs. Hollins said about her son, about the creek. He wipes his face roughly. I went back there the next night. I had to know. I had to see if anyone was still out there. He leans toward the camera, voice a trembling whisper. And that's when I found the drawings. Static flickers. A child's faint laughter echoes through the feed as the video fades to black. Next time, I'll show you what was in Mrs. Hollins's basement. Camera turns on mid-focus, shaky hands, too close to the lens. Evan looks exhausted, eyes bloodshot. He forces a smile, the kind that trembles on the edge of panic. Okay, this might be the last video I make about this. He swallows. Not because I don't want to talk about it, but because I don't think they want me to anymore. He looks over his shoulder, like he's expecting to see someone standing there. I told you last time that I went back to the woods, right? I wasn't planning to, but the nightmares kept getting worse. I'd wake up to that same sound, the laughter, and every time it was closer. Sometimes I'd hear whispers too. They'd say her name. He stops abruptly. Forget that. Doesn't matter who she was. The way his tone hardens at her gives it away. There's more he's not saying. Something personal. Something buried. So, the night after watching the tape, he went to see Mrs. Hollins again. He says the air outside felt wrong, heavy, like the pressure before a storm. Her porch light was flickering when he got there. She opened the door before he even knocked, imitating her trembling voice. You shouldn't have watched it again, Evan. He asked her what she meant. She didn't answer at first, just stared at him like a doctor trying to decide if a patient was too far gone to treat. Then she said, "They remember you now. Once you see them, they don't forget." He laughs bitterly. I told her that was insane, that I didn't see anything, that it was just video noise, maybe reflections. She just shook her head. Reflections don't know your name. That line hit him harder than he admits. He said he almost left right then, but as he turned to go, she added something else. If you really want to understand what happened, check the basement. He thought she was joking, but when he looked back, her face had gone pale, eyes glassy. You'll find them there, she said. You'll find her. Evan's hands twitch on the desk. His voice lowers. I didn't want to go down there, but you know how it is when something's stuck in your head. It's like gravity. You can't stop yourself. The next evening, he went back. He claimed she wasn't home. The door was unlocked. He stepped inside. The air smelled like damp wood and old candles. The floorboards creaked like the house was breathing. He called out for her, but no one answered. Just that faint humming sound he'd heard before, low and rhythmic, coming from below. He found the basement door half open. He exhales, voice trembling. I told myself I'd just take a peek. Just one quick look, record something, leave. He clicked his flashlight on and started filming. The beam cut through dust, catching cobwebs in shelves lined with jars. At first, everything looked ordinary, until he reached the far wall. Pinned there, with yellowed tape and rusty nails, were children's drawings. He stops talking for a moment, eyes darting as though he's replaying it. They looked old, paper turning brown around the edges. But what got me wasn't what they showed. It was how specific they were. The first drawing, 3 stick-figure children standing by a river. Behind them a tall shape, not quite human, drawn in black crayon. The second, a man with a camera, stick arms stretched toward the kids. The third, the same man holding a child's hand. He lets out a shaky laugh. I thought someone was messing with me. Had to be. Maybe she planted them to scare me. But then he found the last drawing. Folded, half buried under dust. It showed the 3 children again, only this time, their eyes were hollow circles, and behind them, scrawled in red marker, were the words, "She's still down there." He says that's when the knocking started. Faint, rhythmic. From beneath the basement floor, his voice cracks. I froze. My flashlight started flickering, and I heard, I swear, the sound of breathing just inches from the ground. It wasn't mine. It was small, wet, like a kid trying not to cry. He backed away, but his foot caught on something metal. A ring latch. A small, square hatch built into the floorboards. He didn't want to open it, but the knocking stopped the moment he touched it, and somehow that silence felt worse. His eyes fill with tears. I told myself I'd just look, just see if maybe an animal got trapped or something. He lifted the hatch. The air that came out was cold. Colder than outside, colder than it should have been. His flashlight beam vanished into blackness. Then he heard her voice, soft, whispering from below. "Evan." He grabs the edge of the desk, whispering fast. It sounded like her. I know her voice anywhere. He insists it wasn't possible, that she was gone, but still. He leaned closer to the opening. The smell hit him first. Rot and wet soil. Then a small hand shot up from the darkness, brushing his wrist. He dropped the light. The beam spun wildly, catching glimpses, flashes of tiny faces below, grinning, crying, laughing. He slammed the hatch shut, ran, didn't stop until he was outside. He wipes his mouth, trembling. I didn't tell the cops. What was I supposed to say? That I broke into an old woman's basement because ghosts told me to. When he went back the next day, the house was empty. Door locked, windows dark, no sign of Mrs. Hollins. The police told him she'd been missing for 2 nights already. He looked straight into the lens, eyes wide. She told me to find them. She told me I'd find her. Maybe that's what they wanted. Maybe that's how they get you. They make you look. He laughs quietly, a dry, broken sound. I don't even know if she was ever real. I tried to find records, property deeds, photos, but nothing. Like she never existed. But I saw her house. I was there. He rubs his temple. After that night, I started hearing knocking again. This time, not from the floor, from the walls. He reaches off screen, taps on something hollow. The sound echoes, low and empty. They don't want me to tell this. I think they're angry I found where she kept them. He glances over his shoulder, voice dropping to a whisper. I keep hearing her voice now too. Mrs. Hollins. Sometimes she says it's not over. Sometimes she says... He pauses. Eyes go wide. You left her again. Static erupts. A child's laughter echoes faintly under the noise. Evan flinches, looking toward the doorway. I shouldn't have gone down there, he whispers. They followed me back. I can hear them right now. He reaches to shut off the camera, but before the feed cuts, a faint child's voice whispers through the static. Play with us again, Evan. Screen flickers. His face distorts in the final frame, his mouth moving silently as the laughter grows louder. Next time, his voice cracks through the interference. I'll show you what was on the footage I didn't upload. The screen flickers to life. Evan sits farther back than usual, hunched, pale, eyes red like he hasn't slept in days. The camera focuses, then slips slightly out of focus again, like it doesn't want to look at him. All right, he whispers, rubbing his face. You've all been asking about the footage I said I deleted. The one from that night in the woods. I didn't delete it. Not really. He glances to his left, at something we can't see. Then back to the camera. I tried, he says, his voice cracking. God, I tried. Every time I wiped it, it came back. Different name, different folder, same file. It's like it wants to be seen. He leans closer, whispering. But don't watch this part in the dark. Don't. Just don't. He exhales shakily, drags a window onto the screen. The file name reads playwithus.mp4. The clip begins with shaky night vision footage. The forest is washed in ghostly green. You can hear the crunch of Evan's boots on leaves and his breathing. Fast, nervous. I remember filming this, he says softly over the playback. I was following the laughter. I swear I thought it was just kids, maybe lost, maybe playing. The sound in the clip grows louder, giggling, echoing around the trees like the forest itself is laughing. Then faintly, someone says his name, Evan. The whisper doesn't come from one place. It folds around the mic, from behind, from ahead, from inside the sound. I didn't notice that before, he mutters, pausing the video. That voice, I thought it was the wind. He presses play again. The camera shakes as he turns. There, between the trees, are 3 children. The same ones, still wearing those stiff, old-fashioned clothes. Their faces are blurred by motion, but their mouths, you can tell they're smiling. Evan zooms in. Hey, you okay out here? His voice echoes from the recording. The children stop laughing. All 3 turn toward the camera at once. Come play, Evan, one of them says. The smallest girl. His breathing quickens. The camera drops lower, jittering, as though his hands are shaking. Who told you my name? He asks. The girl tilts her head. She did. The camera shifts, catching movement in the dark behind them. Something tall, pale, faceless, standing half in shadow. Then the footage cuts to static. Back in the present, Evan runs his hand through his hair, trembling. That's where it always ended before. But this time, there was more. The file's longer now. He clicks play again. The static clears. The camera is somewhere else, moving slowly down what looks like a basement corridor. The walls are wet, lined with roots and stone. Evan swears under his breath, I never filmed this. I don't even know where that is. In the footage, a woman hums softly. The melody is the same tune Mrs. Hollins used to hum in Chapter 3's audio glitch. The camera pans toward a dim light, a candle sitting on a table. Around it are drawings, the same ones from her basement. But now there's a new one pinned in the center. A man sitting at a desk, talking into a camera. Evan's voice in the present cracks. That's me. They drew me. In the background, the children's laughter returns, louder now, echoing like a loop. The camera trembles, swings toward the corner of the basement, and for a split second, we see Mrs. Hollins, or something that looks like her. Her face is stretched, her mouth too wide, her eyes glassy black. She's holding the camera, whispering into it. They needed someone new. The screen distorts. The footage cuts to black. Evan sits motionless. The room behind him seems darker now. The light from the monitor, the only thing keeping him visible. I told you I didn't record that, he says quietly. But it keeps showing up on every device I have. My phone, my backup drive, even the cloud. He stares off camera again, voice trembling. I think she wants me to show it. Maybe that's how she spreads. For a moment, the audio warps. Faint laughter overlapping with a whisper. Upload it. Evan flinches, clutches his ears. Stop! 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 He hits the desk. The camera tilts, showing a glimpse of movement in the shadows behind him. Something small darts past the doorway, fast, human-shaped. He notices. They're in the house again. He stands, knocking the chair over. The camera keeps rolling as he walks toward the door, breathing fast. Mrs. Hollins, you can have it. You can take it. I'm done. There's a faint knock. 3 short taps, coming from inside the wall beside him. Then, softly, it's not done, Evan. His head jerks toward the sound. The camera autofocuses, catching a faint outline in the drywall. Small handprints pressing outward from inside. He stumbles back. Jesus Christ! He runs to shut the camera off, but before his hand reaches it, the screen glitches. For an instant, his reflection on the monitor smiles, even though his face doesn't. The reflection moves first, then it waves. He gasps, staring at the screen. No, that's not me. He steps closer. The reflection leans in too, whispering something only the mic picks up. Now you've seen it. The screen cuts to static. 10 seconds of silence. Then, faintly, the video starts replaying itself. Not from the beginning, but from the middle. The woods scene looping endlessly. Except this time, there's something new. In the distance, behind the children, another figure stands, holding a camera. Zoom in. It's Evan, the real Evan, wearing the same clothes he has on in the current video, staring straight into the lens like he's watching himself from inside the footage. His voice, distorted, overlays the scene. I think that's where I am now. I don't know what's real anymore. He sounds far away, like he's speaking from underwater. If you're watching this, the voice continues, don't try to find the video. Don't download it. It finds you. The image flickers, Evan's face flashing between the forest, the basement, and his darkened room. Each version of him looks a little less alive. She said they need someone new, he whispers. Maybe you'll do. The video cuts abruptly. For a split second, the YouTube screen flickers. The recommended sidebar shows the same thumbnail repeated 12 times. Evan's face frozen mid-scream. Then the screen goes black. A child's giggle echoes one last time. Soft, close to the mic. Tag, you're it. Story number. They told me the asylum was shut down 20 years ago, but the intercom keeps calling my name. The weird part? It doesn't use my real one. They told me the asylum was shut down 20 years ago, but when I unlocked the main doors last night, the lights were already on. I know how that sounds, like I'm making it up for clicks or sympathy. But I swear that first night at Ravenswood was real. The power was running, the cameras were humming, and the smell of disinfectant still clung to the halls like it had never closed. I stood there, holding my flashlight, wondering if I'd walked into the wrong building or the wrong decade. They hired me through an online posting. No interview, no background check, nothing. Just a phone call from a woman who never gave her name. She said they needed a guard for property preservation, to keep out vandals, squatters, and thrill seekers. Easy money, 12 hours a night, 7 nights a week, and the kind of paycheck that makes you forget to ask questions. I didn't care that the job site was an asylum. I've worked worse places, junkyards, mortuaries, even a condemned mall once. I told myself, it's just walls and cameras, the people part's long gone. Still, something about Ravenswood didn't sit right the moment I drove up that cracked road. The main gate hung off one hinge, chain link fence torn like something tried to claw its way out. There were no security lights, just the dull glow of the moon spilling over a massive sign. Ravenswood Psychiatric Hospital closed since 2001, but the doors were unlocked. The moment I stepped in, I swear I felt watched, not by someone, by the place itself. Like the walls recognized me, I told myself it was nerves, first shift jitters. The silence was thick enough to choke on. My footsteps echoed off the tile, bouncing through the halls until they didn't sound like mine anymore. In the control room, half the monitors were static. The others flickered with grainy feeds from the east wing. Mostly empty corridors, dust motes floating like ash. The phone on the desk was dead, but the intercom system still worked. I tested it, just to hear my own voice cut through the building. Security check. Anyone on site? No answer. Of course not. The place had been empty for 2 decades. Still, I thought I heard something faint right after, like laughter. Small, quick. Could have been feedback. Could have been my imagination. I filled out the logbook left behind by the last guard. His handwriting stopped abruptly halfway through a sentence. Heard movement near ward. And then nothing. No signature, no date. Just a streak across the page like the pen had been snatched away mid-word. I laughed it off. Probably some bored guy trying to freak out whoever came next. But when I flipped back through earlier pages, I noticed something strange. The entries before his were mine. My name, my handwriting, my initials at the bottom of the page. I froze. I don't remember ever working here. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe they reused old logs. That's what I told myself anyway. I tried to focus on the patrol. First floor, clear. East hall, clear. The therapy rooms were stripped bare except for bolted down chairs. One still had straps on the arms. When I passed through the patient wing, my flashlight caught words carved into the wall. Don't look at the mirrors. I didn't look. Not then. Around 2 a.m. I stopped by the break room. Old coffee machine, dusty vending machine with shattered glass, and a corkboard covered in yellowed memos. One caught my eye. Reminder, Ward C is permanently restricted. No staff entry without clearance. Ward C. The name made my chest tighten, like I'd heard it whispered in a dream. I don't remember why, but I hated it. My hands were shaking. I almost tore the memo down, but something about it felt personal. I went back to the control room and checked the cameras again. Most were still static, but one, camera 12, was on. It pointed at a dark hallway labelled Ward C. There shouldn't have been power in that section, yet a single light flickered at the end of the hall. For a moment, I thought I saw someone standing there. A shape. Faint, but human. I blinked and it was gone. I told myself I was overtired. I told myself I'd check it tomorrow. But when I reached for the radio, it was already on. A voice crackled through the static. A man's voice. Low, calm, almost friendly. Evening, Evan. Making your rounds? My blood ran cold. I hadn't told anyone my name. Not even the woman on the phone. I stammered, asking who it was, but the line cut off. Only static. I sat there, staring at the intercom speaker, listening to my heartbeat thud in my ears. Then slowly, it came back on. Softer this time, like a whisper right behind me. You're late again, Evan. I spun around. The room was empty. I shut off the intercom, locked the control room door, and sat in silence for the rest of my shift. I didn't sleep. I didn't even blink much. I just watched those monitors. Watched camera 12 until dawn. When I went to clock out that morning, I noticed the time card next to mine. The name written in faded ink said, Evan R., replacement. But the date, it was from 1999, and just before I could tear it down, the intercom crackled again, one last time, hissing softly through the static. Welcome back, Evan. You ever wake up with a memory that doesn't belong to you, like a flash of someone else's life? Only you know it happened to you. That's how the second night started. I couldn't sleep after what happened with the intercom. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it again. My name whispered, like someone was crouched beside my bed. By the time I drove back to Ravenswood, the sun hadn't even set. I told myself I just wanted to check the wiring, maybe see if there was some radio interference. But deep down, I think I wanted to hear the voice again. When I pulled up, the front gate was standing straight this time. Not hanging, not broken, just upright, locked, neat, like someone had fixed it overnight. I remember thinking that couldn't be right. I'd seen it crushed under rust just hours ago. Inside, the smell hit me first. Not the dust and mold I expected, but something sharp, burnt metal and flowers. It made my eyes water. The corridors looked cleaner than before, the floors gleaming faintly under the flickering lights. I told myself maintenance must have come through, but no one's maintained Ravenswood in 20 years. The control room was just how I left it, except the logbook was gone. The desk was bare, smooth as if it had never been touched. On the monitor grid, camera 12 still showed that same hallway. Still lit, still humming faintly. Ward CI don't know why I started talking into the intercom again. Maybe I wanted to prove to myself that there was no one there. Control to any staff on site. This is Evan Richards, security. Identify yourself. Silence. Then a burst of static that made me flinch. After a moment, a man's voice came through. Soft, calm, measured. Evan, you're early tonight. My throat tightened. Who is this? Dr. Lang, he said, like I should have known the name. You know where to find me. The intercom cut out with a click. I stood there, staring at the speaker, debating whether to leave. But something in the tone of his voice, it wasn't threatening. It sounded familiar, like a teacher you half remember from childhood. So I went. I followed the signs past the therapy ward, past the locked pharmacy door, until I found the entrance marked Ward C, authorized personnel only. A thick chain wrapped around the handles, but one link was broken, bent outward like someone had forced their way in. When I pushed the doors open, the air changed. It was colder, thicker somehow, and the smell, burnt metal and flowers, was stronger. The lights overhead flickered in slow rhythm, buzzing like flies. The hallway stretched long and narrow, the kind of endless corridor you only see in dreams. I walked, flashlights sweeping across the walls. Every few steps I passed an old patient room. Some doors were sealed, others open, but all of them had mirrors on the far walls. Every mirror had been covered with a sheet of cracked glass, like someone tried to stop the reflections from forming. That's when the whispering started. It wasn't words at first, just movement. A rhythm. Then, faintly, something like breathing through the speakers overhead. You remember, don't you? I spun around, beam trembling. Who said that? No reply. Just static from the nearest intercom unit. Red light blinking. I should have turned back, but I didn't. I kept walking until I reached the last door at the end of the corridor. A plaque read C1. I reached for the handle, and that's when I saw it. An ID badge, lying on the floor. Faded plastic, cracked photo. My photo. Name Evan Richards. Role, patient. Admit date, 09/14/1999. My chest went hollow. I laughed, too loudly, like it was a joke. Someone was messing with me. Had to be. But when I turned the badge over, there was something scrawled in pen on the back. Don't answer him. I dropped it and stumbled back, pulse hammering. The intercom popped again, louder this time. Evan, you're not supposed to be here yet. The voice was Dr. Lang's, calm but strained now, like he was disappointed. Who are you? I shouted. What is this place? You know, he said gently. You just keep forgetting. And then the lights went out. For a few seconds, the darkness was complete. Thick, suffocating. I could hear something moving just ahead, the soft scrape of shoes. I aimed the flashlight and caught a figure standing down the hall. A man in a lab coat back turned. Dr. Lang. He didn't move. Hey, I called again. When he finally turned, the beam hit his face, and there wasn't one. Just a blank, smooth surface like wax. I stumbled back, tripped over the doorframe, dropped the flashlight. When I scrambled to grab it, he was gone. But the intercom clicked on again, and this time the voice was different. Quieter. Female. Evan, it's okay. You're safe now. For a second, I thought I recognized it. A name bubbled up. Mara. but my head pounded the moment I thought it. Like my own mind rejected it. The hallway started to hum. Every light flickered in unison, syncing with my heartbeat. The mirrors began to vibrate, reflecting flashes that weren't me. Hands trembling. Blood on the floor. A woman screaming. I couldn't tell what was memory and what wasn't. I bolted, running back toward the main hall. As I reached the door, the intercom burst with static so loud it shook the air, and through the distortion came one final message. Go back to the control room. We need to talk about her. When I reached the control room, every monitor showed Ward C, every hallway, every mirror, and in each reflection I saw myself, standing there, only not moving. One by one, each reflection turned its head toward the camera and smiled. When I checked the security footage from last night, I saw myself walk past the camera. The problem is, I was already sitting in that room watching it happen. That's how I knew something was wrong with time in Ravenswood. The nights didn't move forward, they folded back on themselves. I'd sit there in the control room, watching the screens, and sometimes I'd see versions of me, different clothes, different posture. One time, I was smiling. I tried telling myself it was a glitch. Cameras looped, footage corrupted. But the timestamp in the corner wasn't from the past. It was 5 minutes into the future. And when that version of me turned toward the camera and waved, like he knew I was watching, I finally believed what I'd been trying not to. This place was remembering me. I didn't clock in that night. Didn't even bother pretending this was a job anymore. The logbook was back on the desk, though I swear it had vanished the night before. This time, the last entry wasn't in my handwriting. It said, replacement on duty, observe, don't interfere, no signature. Just that single word at the bottom, Lang. I grabbed my flashlight and went to patrol anyway. Not because I wanted to, because I had to know if the other me was still walking around. The hallways were quieter than usual. The smell of burnt metal was gone, replaced by something sweet and rotten, like spoiled fruit. Every light flickered slower now, like the building itself was breathing. Halfway down the west corridor, I found something I hadn't noticed before. A small door, paint peeling off, marked Observation Room 3. It was slightly open. Inside, monitors lined the walls, all showing Ward C from different angles. And in one of them, I saw a man standing over a hospital bed, whispering. When I leaned closer, the image sharpened, and I realized the man was me. But there was someone else in the bed, a woman, pale, motionless, hair spilling over her face. The way I whispered her name, Mara, sent a pulse through my chest, like my heart was trying to remember something it shouldn't. Then the feed glitched. The woman's eyes snapped open, staring straight into the camera. I stumbled back, slamming the monitor off. I couldn't breathe. My head was spinning. The room around me seemed to shift. Walls stretching, colors dulling. When I stepped outside, the hallway was different. The wallpaper was newer, the lights brighter, the scent of antiseptic sharp in the air. And down the hall, 2 nurses walked past. Actual people, talking, laughing. I froze. One of them glanced right through me. The other brushed past, cold and solid. I wasn't invisible, I was somewhere else. Ravenswood wasn't showing me ghosts. It was showing me the past. I followed the nurses quietly until they turned into a patient ward. Through the cracked door, I saw nameplates on the beds. Most were blurred with age, but one was clear. Evan Richards, admitted, September 1999. My legs gave out. I felt the world tilt sideways, the sound of rushing air filling my head. That was my name, my date. But why? How? And then, from behind me, you shouldn't be here, Evan. It was Dr. Lang. I turned and saw him standing under the flickering light. Lab coat, crisp white this time, not the grimy one from before. His face still looked wrong, but clearer now, half-formed like memory rebuilding itself. "Am I dead?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "Not yet. What is this? Why do I see?" "Because you never left," he interrupted softly. "You keep coming back to finish what you started." My pulse thundered. "Finish what?" He stepped closer, voice lowering. "You told me she slipped, but the blood spatter didn't match a fall, did it?" My stomach twisted. I shook my head. No, that's not... "You said you loved her," Lang murmured. "Then why did you hit her?" I backed away, covering my ears. His words weren't real. They couldn't be, but the memories came anyway. Mara's voice pleading, my hand gripping the tray, the flash of glass, the scream. I remember shouting that it wasn't me, that the reflection in the glass had moved first. That's what I told them. That's what I told myself. Lang's voice echoed through the hall, now overlapping with the intercom, distorted, multiplied. "You replaced her. You replaced yourself." The lights exploded. I fell, ears ringing as the hallway filled with overlapping figures. Versions of me walking, shouting, banging on doors. Dozens of me, looping the same patrols, same words, same fears. The replacements. Every one of them turned toward me at once. "You shouldn't have come back." I ran, through the corridors, past the rooms that weren't rooms anymore, until I burst back into the control area. The monitors all showed the same thing. Me, sitting there, staring at the screens, expression blank. I reached for the power switch, desperate to cut everything off. But before I could, the intercom hissed, and Mara's voice, soft, trembling, broke through. "Evan, it wasn't your fault." For a second, I almost believed her. I whispered, "Then why won't you leave me alone?" Static answered. Then a sound, like something dragging across concrete. I turned slowly. In the reflection of the monitor behind me, someone was standing. A woman, pale, motionless, hair spilling over her face. "Mara," I breathed. She lifted her head just enough to show a smile that didn't belong to her anymore. "You were the replacement." "Evan," the light snapped off, and somewhere in the dark, dozens of my own voices whispered the same word. Over and over. "Replacement! Replacement! Replacement!" They said I've been dead for 20 years. But if that's true, why does the clock still punch my time card every night at 7 p.m? That's how the final recording starts. The last one I ever made. I don't remember hitting record, but the red light on the camera was already blinking when I sat down in the control room. The monitors hummed softly behind me, each one showing the same empty hallway. Ward C. No more loops, no more doubles, just stillness. I told myself I wasn't coming back after this. One more shift, one last chance to fix what I broke, to cover the glass again, like Lang used to say. The place was quieter than ever. Even the static had stopped. I almost missed it. The sound meant someone was listening. I started talking to the camera like it was a person. Maybe I was hoping someone would find this tape. Maybe I just wanted to hear my own voice one last time. If anyone's watching this, I wasn't lying. I didn't kill her on purpose. My voice cracked halfway through. I laughed it off, but it came out wrong. Too high, too tight. I rubbed my face, felt the stubble scraping against my palms. It was growing back, but it shouldn't have. Time didn't move here. It only replayed. I turned the camera toward the monitors, pointing at Ward C. The hallway there looked different now, newer, cleaner, as if time itself was trying to reset the scene. At the end of the corridor, one door stood open. C1I grabbed my flashlight, radio and crowbar and started walking. My boots echoed in that hollow way that only happens when a building's holding its breath. As I passed the old break room, something caught my eye. The logbook. It was open again. A new line written in neat, slanted handwriting. Final shift. Seal the mirrors. Confess. No signature. But the ink was still wet. By the time I reached Ward C, the smell was back. The one that made me dizzy. Burnt metal and flowers. I stepped through the double doors and froze. The corridor was spotless. Bright white tiles. Fresh paint. Medical carts lining the walls. The past had rebuilt itself. And at the far end, standing by room C1, was Dr. Lang. His lab coat gleamed under the lights. This time his face was clear, older, tired, but human. "You came back," he said softly. "I need to fix it," I told him. My voice was trembling. "I need to make it right," Lang nodded slowly. "Then you already know what you have to do." I did. Inside room C1, the bed was neatly made. The sheets were white, spotless. But beneath the pillow, I could see the edge of something metallic. The mirror. The one I'd broken years ago. The one that had started all this. I remembered now. The night Mara died. We'd argued in that very room. I'd accused her of lying, of betraying me with Lang. She said I wasn't well, that she was trying to help. I threw the tray first. The glass shattered, and she slipped, hit the edge of the bedpost. The sound, God, that sound never stopped. After that, the reflection started whispering. I told the doctors it wasn't me, that the thing in the mirror made me do it. They didn't believe me. I lifted the mirror carefully, shards rattling like teeth. My reflection stared back, pale and shaking. "It wasn't you," I whispered. "It wasn't your fault." Behind me, Lang sighed. "That's what you always say." I turned, and he was gone. Just like that. No footsteps, no door creak. The intercom crackled to life. "Evan," Mara's voice said softly, almost kind. "You can stop now. You don't have to keep doing this." Tears burned behind my eyes. "I killed you," I said. "You shouldn't forgive me. Then why do you keep coming back?" I didn't answer. I just lifted the mirror and nailed the shards back into the frame, sealing the cracks with duct tape. Every hammer strike echoed through the building like a heartbeat. When I finished, I turned to the camera. "It's done," I said. "No more reflections. No more loops." The monitors behind me began to flicker. Each one showed Ward C. Same angle, same shot, but something had changed. The hallway wasn't empty anymore. In every feed I was standing there, not one version, dozens, hundreds, all of them staring at me from inside the screens, frozen in silence. Some smiled, some didn't. One looked exactly like I did now, same clothes, same tired face. He stepped closer to the camera and placed his hand against the glass. The surface of my monitor bulged outward. I stumbled back. "No," I whispered. No. The glass cracked. A hairline fracture spread across the screen like a spider web. Then another, then dozens. Every monitor began to splinter, the sound deafening. The reflections behind the glass screamed, not in fear but in laughter. I turned to run, but the hallway ahead of me wasn't the control room anymore. It was Ward C endless, pulsing with light. The floor was wet beneath my boots. Red. In the distance, someone stood beside room C1. Long hair, white uniform. "Mara?" I whispered. She turned, and I saw that same soft smile. "You covered the glass again," she said. "Good. Now we can rest." I tried to move toward her, but the floor rippled like water, swallowing the light. The air was heavy, pressing in from every side. "Rest," she repeated, voice breaking into static. "Rest, Evan." Then everything went black. The camera feed ends there, just static, flickering faintly. But if you watch closely, right before the tape cuts, you can see one final image reflected in the broken monitor. Evan, sitting in the control room again, smiling, A time card clicks in the background. Shift started, 7:00 p.m. I pressed my palms to my ears, desperate, but it didn't help. "Stop it," I whispered. "Please stop it." And the worst part, it listened. The sound didn't fade. It paused, like it was waiting for me to say something else. I stumbled to my feet, staggering through the snow, following the blood patterns as though they were directions. They twisted and crossed, endless loops, but every turn brought me back to camp, back to the empty fire, back to the silence. That's when I started talking to myself, out loud, just to drown it out. "Ellis is fine. He walked off. He'll be back. Wolves don't take people. Wolves don't laugh. Wolves don't..." But my own voice faltered, because I remembered what I'd seen at the tree line that night, a shape too tall, too steady, vanishing before I could name it. Maybe Ellis hadn't left. Maybe he'd changed. I don't know how long I wandered like that. Hours? Days? The sky never shifted. Grey bleeding into black, black bleeding back into grey. Time didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was the sound of boots in the snow. Here's the part that still wakes me up at night. Sometimes the crunch wasn't mine. I'd freeze, hold my breath, and behind me, one more step. Then silence. I'd turn, lantern shaking in my hands, and see nothing but the field of white, unbroken, stretching on forever. But when I looked down, new prints. Right behind mine, I started running. I don't know where, I just ran. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but the tracks chased me. Not paw prints anymore. Boots. My boots. You understand what I'm saying? The snow showed me walking in front of myself, as if I were chasing my own shadow. I collapsed when my body couldn't take it anymore. Face pressed to the snow, chest heaving, tears freezing on my skin. And that's when I heard it. Ellis's voice. Soft. Close. "You believe me now, don't you?" I whipped my head around, searching, but no one stood there. Just the snow, just the blood, just the spirals curling wider and wider across the valley, as if some hand kept drawing while I blinked. I wanted to scream. I wanted to beg, but the howl rose again, drowning me. And in that moment I understood. It wasn't wolves. It never was. The Wrangell Black Wolves were just the name we gave it. The mask we put over something older, something that doesn't kill flesh, something that eats thought. Ellis hadn't disappeared. Ellis had been taken. Not his body, his shadow, his mind. I stumbled back to the campfire pit, dropped beside it, clutching my rifle, though I don't remember when I picked it up. My gloves shook against the stock. "If you're watching this," I whispered, speaking to no one. "I didn't mean it. I swear I didn't." The words tasted like confession. Maybe I pulled the trigger. Maybe Ellis bled into the snow, and I chased his ghost around in circles until the wolves laughed me hollow. Or maybe he was never Ellis at all. Maybe he was the bait, the voice guiding me deeper, the hook in my skull. I don't know anymore. But I do know this. I'm not alone. Not even now. The spirals never stopped growing. I see them every time I close my eyes. Blood on the snow, endless, curling into shapes I can't read. And at night, when the wind dies and the valley holds its breath, I hear him. Not the wolves. Him, Ellis. Laughing. And I don't know if he's laughing at me or through me. So if you're listening, if anyone's listening, you believe me, don't you? You have to. Because if you don't, if you call me a liar, if you say it was just the cold or the dark or the madness, then it means they've already won. And if they've already won with me, they'll find you next. You'll hear the howl. Not outside, not in the woods, but between your ears. And once it starts, it never ends. Just like the footprints. Just like the blood on the snow. Story numbers 06. They told me the caves were empty. But when I crawled inside, I swear I heard my own name echoing back. The thing is, no one else was alive down there. You're not supposed to hear screaming in a place where sound can't even travel. But that's the first thing I remember. That sound, pressed deep inside the walls of ice, like someone had been trapped there for centuries. Still alive, still begging. I should start at the beginning, right? That's what people want. An introduction, an explanation. But the truth is, I don't remember agreeing to any of it. One day I was in Seward, walking past the harbour where tourists buy their overpriced crab cakes. And the next, I was staring at Eli across a cracked wooden table, his voice low, almost hypnotic as he said, "You've been chosen." That word, chosen. It sounded holy, like he wasn't asking me to come. He was telling me I had no other option, and I didn't fight it. Maybe I should have. Maybe that's where I went wrong. Eli wasn't like other people. He had this recklessness about him, the kind of charm that made you believe he'd walk straight into hell and drag you with him. And somehow you'd thank him for the ride. He was the one who planned the expedition into the ice caves of Mount Marathon, said the caves weren't mapped properly, that the glaciers were shifting, and inside there were passages no one had seen before. He wanted proof. He wanted glory, and he wanted me to follow. Why me? That's the part I'm still not sure I want to admit. I told myself it was curiosity, that I wanted adventure, or that I wanted to see Alaska from beneath its skin instead of above it. But no, that's not the truth. The truth is messier, uglier, and you wouldn't believe me if I told you. So let's leave it at this. I had a reason. We set out at dawn. The mountain loomed ahead, like something ancient, something older than time itself, white and jagged against a sky that refused to brighten. Eli was in his element, tossing his gear over his shoulder, humming some old sea shanty as if we were on a playground, instead of standing at the mouth of a frozen labyrinth. The cave entrance wasn't obvious. You had to climb through a break in the glacier where meltwater trickled down, black with grit. I remember ducking beneath the overhang, the cold hitting me like a slap. Inside, the air felt different, heavier, as though it carried secrets it wasn't supposed to share. The walls were smooth blue ice, curved like the ribs of some colossal creature, and every footstep echoed, ricocheting back at me in whispers. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Eli said, his breath fogging up in the beam of his headlamp. I nodded, though beautiful wasn't the word I'd use. Terrifying, maybe. Fragile. Like we had stepped into a cathedral that could collapse with one wrong move. The ceiling above us groaned faintly as the glacier shifted. I should tell you something about Eli. He didn't believe in fear. Or maybe he just didn't feel it the way the rest of us do. He moved like he owned the place, touching the walls, laughing when his gloves came away wet. I, on the other hand, couldn't shake the feeling that we were trespassing, that the caves weren't meant for people like us. But I followed him deeper, always deeper. The light outside faded quickly, replaced by a pale, ghostly glow from the ice itself. It was like being inside a frozen lung, veins of air and shadow twisting all around us. At one point I stopped, my boot hovering above the ground. I swore I heard something, faint, just beyond hearing. "Did you catch that?" I whispered. Eli turned, smirking. "Catch what?" "That sound." He tilted his head, listening. But there was nothing then, only the drip of water and the distant crack of shifting ice. He shrugged and pushed on, his voice echoing back at me. "Don't spook yourself already. We just got here." I told myself I was imagining things, that it was just the cave playing tricks. But deep down I knew, I'd always known. We walked for what felt like hours, though my watch told me it had barely been 40 minutes. The deeper we went, the colder it got. Not just cold, but bone-deep, soul-crushing cold. I pulled my jacket tighter, but it didn't help. The air itself seemed to seep through the fabric, through my skin, into my lungs. Every breath burned, and then there it was again, a sound. Not water, not ice, not my imagination. It was a scream, muffled, like it had traveled a long way to reach me, but sharp enough to freeze me in place. Eli kept walking, oblivious, until he noticed I wasn't moving. "What's your problem?" he asked, turning his headlamp toward me. I couldn't answer. My throat locked up. The scream still rang in my ears. A high-pitched wail buried in the glacier. "Didn't you hear that?" I finally managed. Eli sighed, exasperated. "The mountain creaks. Ice moves. You hear things. That's nature, man." But it wasn't nature. I know the difference. Nature doesn't call your name, because that's what it did, the second time. Clear as day, the sound came again, higher, sharper, and woven into it, I heard it. My own name, stretched and distorted, bouncing through the tunnels. I staggered back, my hands pressed against the ice, as if bracing myself against the voice itself. Eli laughed. "Jesus, you look like you've seen a ghost. You're pale as the damn walls," I wanted to tell him. I wanted to confess what I'd heard, but something inside me stopped. A voice, my own maybe, whispered, "Don't say it. Don't let him know." So I smiled instead. Forced. Shaky. Yeah, must have been nothing. We moved on, though I barely remember my feet carrying me. My mind was still back there, in that moment, in that sound. Because deep down, I wasn't afraid of the scream. I wasn't even afraid of the cave. I was afraid of what it meant. And the truth? I think I knew from the very beginning, this wasn't discovery. This wasn't exploration. This was a summons, and I had been chosen. You ever had the feeling that walls were listening to you? Not just echoing back what you say, but actually hearing. That's what it felt like inside those caves after I heard my name the first time. Every breath, every step, every nerve. Eli didn't notice, or maybe he just didn't care. He marched ahead, swinging his headlamp in wide arcs, his boots crunching against the frozen ground. His voice echoed through the tunnels, bold, careless, filling every shadow with the kind of confidence I couldn't fake if I tried. "Keep up," he called, his words ricocheting until it sounded like a dozen Elis were walking just ahead. I did keep up. I had to. The further we went, the more the entrance behind us disappeared, swallowed by bends and ridges. The light from outside was gone. There was no way back except through him. But the voices didn't leave me alone. At first, they were faint, just under the threshold of sound, like someone whispering into a pillow. I thought maybe it was the ice shifting or air currents twisting around us. That's what I told myself anyway. But then the whispers grew sharper, clearer, until I swore I could pick out words. Not sentences. No, never that simple. But fragments, pieces, like they wanted me to know just enough to lose my balance. Help. Behind. Cold. Once, I stopped dead, holding my breath, and the whisper came again, so close I could almost feel it brushing my ear. I spun around, headlamp flashing across the walls, but there was no one. Just endless ribs of blue-white ice, gleaming like glass coffins. Eli doubled back, annoyed. "What now?" "You didn't hear it?" I asked. My voice shook. "Hear what?" "The voices." He stared at me like I'd told him the sky was bleeding. Then he laughed. A sharp, barked sound that bounced around until the cave itself seemed to mock me. "You're losing it, man. It's just air. The ice cracks. It moans. It makes you think you're not alone." Classic paranoia. Paranoia doesn't sound like words. Everything sounds like words when you want it to. I hated how calm he was. How certain, like he was immune to the dread that was sinking into my bones. Or maybe he wasn't. Maybe he just refused to admit it. We pressed on. The tunnels narrowed, forcing us to crawl in places, our gear scraping against the walls. My gloves froze stiff, my knees went numb, but Eli just laughed when I slipped, his voice always a few feet too far ahead, like he wanted me to chase him. And then we found them. The bones. They were half buried in ice, pale and warped, like the glacier had been eating them for years. Some looked human, some didn't. Ribs, femurs, skull fragments, frozen mid-swallow by the ice itself. One skull had its jaw open wide, locked in a silent scream that made my stomach twist. I froze. "Eli, these are—" "Don't say it," he snapped. His light lingered on the bones for a second too long before he turned away. "It's nothing. People get lost out here. Old hunters, maybe. Don't start spinning ghost stories. But they're— Drop it." His voice cracked, sharp, almost desperate. Then he forced a grin, too wide, too fake. "You wanted adventure, didn't you? Well, here it is." I didn't push him, but I couldn't stop staring at that skull. Its hollow sockets seemed to follow me, accusing, like it knew I'd ignored something important, something I wasn't saying. The voices didn't stop either. They grew stronger the deeper we went, threading through the tunnels, overlapping until they sounded like a chorus. Not screams this time, pleading, begging, demanding. Sometimes they sounded like strangers. Sometimes they sounded like people I knew, and sometimes they sounded like Eli. "Stop," I whispered at one point, clutching my head. "Just stop." Eli turned, his lamp flashing across my face. "I didn't say anything." "That wasn't you," his smile faltered. For a split second, his eyes darted to the walls. Then, just as quickly, he shook it off. "You're letting it get in your head. That's how people die down here. They spook themselves to death, but I could see it." He was shaken. He tried to hide it, but his movements grew sharper, quicker, like he wanted to outrun the cave itself. The tunnel split. He chose the left without hesitation. I followed, my chest tight, my ears straining. The voices were louder now, echoing from every direction, impossible to pin down. It felt like the cave was breathing with us, inhaling when we did, exhaling cold drafts down our necks. Then it happened. One moment, Eli was just ahead, his lamp swinging, his boots crunching. The next, silence. I blinked. The beam of his light vanished, swallowed by the dark. "Eli." My voice cracked too loud. It shot down the tunnel and came back shredded, warped, like something else had repeated it. I scrambled forward, heart pounding. The tunnel twisted left, then right. My lamp caught nothing but frost and stone. No footprints, no gear. "No, Eli! Eli!" I screamed this time, the sound tearing out of me. It echoed once, twice, then died. And then, God help me, I heard him, not ahead, not behind. From inside the walls, his voice, muffled, panicked, shouting my name like he was trapped behind the ice itself. I pressed my hands against the wall, my gloves burning from the cold. But there was nothing there. "Just solid glacier. Help me," the voice cried. It was him. It had to be. I recognized the fear, the ragged edge. But how could he be? I staggered back, gasping, shaking my head. "No! No! That's not possible." But the ice groaned and his voice came again, louder, desperate, and beneath it, others joined. Dozens. Hundreds. All screaming, all clawing at the walls, begging to be let out. I stumbled down the tunnel, half running, half falling, my lamp bouncing wild shadows against the ribs of ice. The voices chased me, tangled together, pulling me deeper, deeper, deeper. By the time I stopped, gasping for air, the silence had returned. My chest burned, my hands shook, and the realization sank in. Eli was gone, not just gone, taken, and I was alone. But here's the thing you need to understand, the part I haven't told you yet. When I heard his voice from inside the ice, when I pressed my hands against that wall, when the screams swallowed me whole, I wasn't surprised, because part of me, some hidden, ugly part, had been waiting for it, and maybe, just maybe, I wanted it to happen, to be continued in chapter 3. The glacier's secret. Do you know what silence feels like when it isn't empty? It's not peaceful, it's suffocating. It's every sound you've ever heard folded back inside itself, waiting, watching. That's what the cave gave me after Eli disappeared. A silence that wasn't silence at all. I stood there for what felt like hours, headlamp flickering against the ribs of ice, my breath rising in short, sharp bursts. I told myself I should turn back, find the entrance, run, but my feet wouldn't move because the voices hadn't left me. They just shifted. Now they were deeper, layered, like the glacier was humming with them. Screams, whispers, sobs, all blending into a rhythm I couldn't escape. And in the center of it, Eli's voice, calling my name, fractured, distorted. But his. I told you before, didn't I, that I wasn't surprised when he vanished. That part of me was waiting for it. Maybe this is the time I should admit why. I didn't go into that cave for adventure. I didn't go for discovery, I went because of Eli. See, Eli had this power. He could pull people in, make them feel like they were chosen. I wasn't the first, and I wasn't the only one. He'd led others before, other hikes, other climbs, other expeditions, and not all of them came back. People whispered about it in town, but no one said it outright. Too scared maybe, or too charmed, but I'd seen enough. I knew what he did, the risks he took, the way he laughed at danger like it was a toy. And still, I followed him. Why? Because I thought if I went with him, maybe I'd finally understand. Maybe I'd see what others couldn't. Or maybe I'd catch him in the act. Maybe I'd stop him. That was the secret I kept from you, from the beginning, and now he was gone. Swallowed, or taken, or maybe I pushed him. No, that's not how it happened. I didn't touch him, I swear. 1 second he was there, the next, darkness. But the thought clung to me anyway, crawling into the cracks of my mind. What if I'd wanted him to fall? What if, in some unspoken way, I'd let it happen? The voices didn't help. Why? They hissed. Follow. Yours now. I stumbled deeper because that's what the cave wanted. That's what Eli's voice wanted. I told myself I was chasing him, that maybe he was alive somewhere inside. But the truth? I wasn't saving him. I was following him, like I always did. The tunnels grew stranger the further I went. Narrow walls that pulsed with trapped air, ice columns twisted like spines, pools of black water reflecting faces that weren't mine. Every turn felt intentional, like the cave wasn't natural at all, but designed, built, and in the middle of it all, I found them. Not just bones this time, entire bodies, perfectly preserved in the ice, their skin pale, their eyes wide, frozen mid-scream. Men, women, some dressed like climbers, others in clothes too old, too out of place. Decades, maybe centuries of the lost. But here's the part that still makes me sick. Some of them looked familiar. Faces I'd seen in town, faces I'd seen with Eli. Faces that weren't supposed to be here at all. My stomach lurched. My knees gave out. I pressed my hands to the ice, to their skin, their glassy eyes staring through me. And that's when Eli's voice came again, louder, closer. You did this. No, I whispered. I didn't. You brought me here. The ice cracked under my hands, spiderweb fractures racing across the frozen faces. The voices screamed, roared, filled the chamber until I couldn't hear my own thoughts. And yet, beneath it all, one truth cut through. I hadn't told you everything. You thought it was just me and Eli, didn't you? That it was our story. But that's not true. There were others with us. A group, explorers, like I said. And not all of them made it. Why didn't I tell you that before? Maybe because I didn't want you to ask the next question. Where are they now? The answer is all around me. Their faces stared from the walls, their hands pressed into the ice, reaching for me, accusing. I choked on my breath, the weight of it pressing down, crushing me. I tried to run, but every tunnel led me back here, back to them and Eli, His body wasn't in the ice, not yet, but his voice was everywhere. Sometimes pleading, sometimes laughing, sometimes screaming my name like he wanted me to join him. I don't remember how long I stayed there. Minutes, hours, days. Time meant nothing. The cave swallowed it. My headlamp flickered, dimmed, died. But the ice glowed on its own, pale and unearthly, enough to show me every terrible detail. I thought about clawing my way out, about fighting, but then I realized something. Maybe I wasn't supposed to escape. Maybe that's not why I was chosen. Maybe I wasn't the victim. Maybe I was the offering. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the part no one ever believes. They think the caves are haunted, cursed, unnatural. They think explorers vanish because they fall, or they freeze, or they get lost. But what if it isn't that simple? What if the caves want us? What if the glacier takes who it needs, when it needs them? And what if Eli was never the leader at all? What if he was just the bait to get me here? I can't answer that for you, not completely, because by now I don't know what was real. Did the voices speak, or did my guilt shape them? Did Eli vanish, or did I let him fall? Did the others die in the cave, or did I help the cave claim them? I don't know. I don't trust myself anymore. But I do know this. When I finally found my way out, if that's what really happened, it wasn't the same mountain. It wasn't the same world. I crawled into the light, gasping, shaking, certain I'd survived. And then I heard it. Not from the glacier. From behind me, from the forest, the wind, the very air around me. A scream. Not Eli's, not the others'. Mine, twisted, distorted, echoing back at me, as if I were still inside. Maybe I never left. Maybe I'm still there, telling you this story from the belly of the mountain. Maybe the glacier lets me speak so it can lure you too. Wouldn't that be something? So if you ever find yourself near Mount Marathon, staring at the ice caves, listening to the wind, don't go inside, because if you do, and you hear someone calling your name, you'll know it's already too late.